So, hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining me on my podcast, the Fire in My Belly podcast, where we focus on human resiliency and sharing people's stories. And today with me, I have Jaelyn, who is a person in my life here and there. She is my husband's cousin. They share the same birthday, and I'm really excited to have her on because she has plenty of wisdom to share with us today. So, thank you so much for joining me.
Hi, I am so honored to be on this podcast today. I feel like this is so exciting. And yes, my name is Jaelyn Helser, and I am excited to share my story to help others. And yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Well, so Jaelyn and I had a conversation over the phone, kind of prepping for this, and there was so much that we got into it. I mean, you and I are clearly kindred spirits. There's so much we have in common, but also just the way we've interpreted our lives is very similar. And I love the language that you use and all of the different just terms and your awareness of those things at such a young age as well. And I feel like it's hard for us to resonate with a lot of other people because of the awareness that we have or the life experiences that we
Yeah.
have. So,
Yeah.
something you said to me in that conversation that I think might spark things for maybe where you want to start with things is how you started noticing people were happier than you and you were wondering like how that was possible or why you were almost like kind of FOMO, like why you were missing out. Can you take me through that experience?
Yeah, so I think that starts with sort of the dark night of the soul. And I think a lot of us experience this going through our spiritual awakening. Some of us, it just like clicks. And then some of us have this dark night of the soul that hits so deeply. And so in 2020, I went through something called the dark night of the soul, which people kind of understand that is where you go through deep depression. And when I was going through that, I realized that I was in such darkness and I was so upset with myself that you sort of look at the world with ugly eyes. And so when you have that perspective of yourself where you can't even look yourself in the mirror and love yourself deeply, you look at everybody else in a negative way as well, which is really unfortunate, but it's sort of something that happens. And so then it you also start to notice as you go through your spiritual awakening, you want to grasp the light as much as you're in the darkness. Our souls want to grasp the light as much as it can. And so with that, I really just would look around and be like, why are these people so happy? Why I was a victim, because when you're in the darkness you become the victim and you don't even realize that you're the victim to your own suffering. And so I'm looking around seeing these happy people and I'm just like, I want that. Like I want that, and what are these people doing differently um that I'm not doing, and they're just so happy. And so I spoke with the shaman. I guess we can go down this route a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
I got in contact with a shaman, and he's one of the people that was just so happy all the time. And I really, it just inspired me. I was just like, you know what are you doing? This, that, and the other. And he was doing plant medicine at the time, but the way that he lived his life was a lot different than I was. I was, in my depression cave, and I think we'll get into isolation at some point here, but yeah, I should we go down the plant medicine route?
Oh, totally. Yeah, I'd love to hear
Yeah.
about that experience for you. Absolutely.
I think that's a big part of my journey is the plant medicine. And with plant medicine, that's ayahuasca, something called San Pedro, toad, which is DMT, and Cambo. So I started doing a lot of those things, and that helped me a lot in my journey to sort of awaken my gifts and be able to see the light and see the world differently. I would not rely completely on plant medicine. Not everybody is called to plant medicine. So I would like to go back into a few different ways to sort of get yourself in a better mindset.
Yeah, yeah,
But
absolutely.
yeah, that's that. that's looking at other people and seeing that they're happy is definitely, it opens your eyes and you're like, you know what, it is possible. And it is important to like realize that if somebody else has something, you can have it as well. It is not out of reach. Not everybody is supposed to be stuck miserable their entire lives. There is a way out.
Right.
And so, yeah.
Yeah, totally. And you mentioned victim mindset, and people don't realize the amount of the intensity at which their suffering exists is often reliant upon how much you are feeding into it. And part of the victim mindset is it unfortunately feeds into your suffering more. It keeps you locked into the feelings of your pain and your trauma. And something that in our Western world is like highly cultivated, sadly, is like this awareness in your mind of your emotions rather than feeling them. So I think plant medicine for you, it sounds like it
Feeling
allowed you
them.
to tap into
Mhm.
feeling rather than just awareness, and then eventually almost like connecting the two. That's how it's been for me as well. But I think the victim mindset, and you mentioned isolation, like for me, I looked at other people and them being happy, and I was like, there's no way that's real for the longest time, right? Like you have that part of it too. And you look at it and you're like, there's no way that's real because it doesn't exist for me. So there's no way it
Yeah.
can exist for other people. So I think you and I had sort of like the mirror
Yes.
experience of like, you're like, why don't I have that? I can see it's real in other people. And I was like, I don't have that. So there's no way it's real in other people.
Hmm.
And then eventually we probably, both experience either side, but it's an interesting version of that. Um,
Yeah.
and I
I,
think too, the looking at life with ugly eyes is a part of that. It's like you are so in your head about how it feels to be you that you isolate from what it might feel like to be other people. And that isolates you and disconnects you from the opportunity to feel any different, right? To reach for the light, to reach for anything different. All you know is that ugly version, all you know is that uncomfortability. And it's hard to fathom or imagine feeling differently, looking at
mhm.
life differently. And it's like,
Mhm.
well, of course you can't feel like that. That's not how you feel, right? It's not,
Yep.
but it's also not how you're thinking.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think that's so great and that was so well said. And yes, with the plant medicine, it's about feeling. And so I think that's so important to dive into is that going through the dark night of the soul, it's important to not escape your feelings because
Hmm.
you can still end up trapped in
Hmm.
those feelings by escaping them. And so that's what the plant medicine does is it helps you to feel all of your emotions and all of your traumas. But there are ways to do that without the plant medicine. And that is when something comes up, we are meant to feel those things. We are not meant to escape them. Isolation, I think we'll go into that. There's
Yeah.
so many positives about isolation, and then
Right.
there can be a few negatives, and I think we'll go into the negatives at the end here.
Yeah.
But the positives are it gives you time to really go through your emotions and process them. If you have had a really hard childhood or been through a lot, you need time to process your emotions and you need time to sit with them and fully feel them. And I know that sounds so difficult because nobody wants to feel their emotions these days. They want to sweep them under the rug. If they feel sad, they're going to go out with their friends on a Saturday night and go drink or, just escape constantly, hang out with friends.
Yep.
There's so
Escapism for
many
sure.
different ways to escape. Um, and so feeling that you can sort of they call it shadow work. You can write out, you can journal your emotions. And for me, you know what I do honestly to feel what I do if I'm having a day where I'm feeling very heavy, I will just sit wherever I am in my bedroom, in my living room. I will sit and I will just close my eyes. Or sometimes it's almost like, when you're taking a nap, you just close your eyes, but you're not falling asleep and you just let it you just feel. And you can just it'll sometimes like feel physical. Almost for
Yeah.
me it feels physical. I've had panic attack disorders and anxiety disorders, all of the above, practically my whole life, but I would try to escape it. But once I sat down and I just felt whatever emotion, whatever thought came in, like sometimes we'll get thoughts and it'll make us really uncomfortable. We'll get this
Hmm.
thought and it'll just be like, you'll
Hmm.
tighten up and you'll just be like, oh, I want to become this thought. You need to not become your thoughts. You just need to let them come through your head and it will process itself.
Yeah.
They will come in and they will process themselves, and you sit there and you feel. And that is a very important thing to do in your awakening, because you cannot fully reach the light or reach your full potential without doing this deep inner work.
Yeah. You cannot bypass the fact that you're going to have emotional ties to things. And there's a difference between emotions and feelings, which I think you described well, is that, we have our feelings are how we feel about our thoughts, if that makes sense. And our emotions, everybody can feel sad, everybody can be mad, everybody can be depressed. However, the way you think about that feeling for yourself, the way you feel about being depressed is unique to you, right? And so
Mhm.
that's where we get all of those like different versions of escapism and different versions of isolation. And you are so right that there's a purpose in isolation. It's for integration, right? So when you have
Mhm.
this like isolation period, before and after plant ceremonies typically, and even in
Mhm.
the plant
Mhm.
ceremony, some isolation as well. You need that in order to fully integrate mind, body, spirit, and heart
Mhm.
for that matter. And I think too, a big way of not bypassing emotional weight or whatever emotional energetics you are carrying at the time, you it's through the heart, right? So if we're trying to connect the mind and our awareness of what has happened to us with our body and how our body has responded to what has happened to us, like in the nervous system and all of the somatics,
Mhm.
we have to go through the heart. And the heart is, of course, the emotional center of our body. It's the emotional chakra. It's all of those things. So it's
Mhm.
like you have to feel it. And it's daunting as fuck, right? We're like, I know what happened to me. And why doesn't that fix what I feel? And it's like, well, because your body's been trained to believe
Mhm.
that story, to believe that
Mhm.
narrative, to believe that
Yeah.
that's the only way that you're going to feel in situations that make you have a certain emotion, right? So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
hard to get out of that loop almost. I think you described it as a loop as well.
Yes, yes. And that's great. And I love when people talk about kind of how the emotional turns into the physical. It's also can be reversed. So if you're healing those emotional things, then your physical will be healed as well.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a really important thing to kind of talk about too is, I used to have the worst anxiety attacks and panic attacks where my skin would crawl.
Mm-hmm.
And as I healed emotionally, those things I would be able to handle it more. And I realized that that wouldn't occur as much anymore. And so you can also, I mean, gosh, even I've heard things about, holding on to hatred or, just anger. Those things can actually cause disease in your body and turn physical, which, is not something that we want to go through. So it's good to kind of know these things when you're younger. And I feel like we're a bit younger, and I know there's a lot of older people that are teaching the younger masses right now, but there's also going to be a lot of kids coming in. I know that you have a few little ones right now, and those little ones are coming in right now to awaken humanity. And so a lot of those little ones are very gifted, and they will have all the tools that they need at a younger age. And even like your little ones could be, age 5, 10, and really already have this knowledge encoded in their DNA, which is beautiful. They won't have to take on as much karma that some of us have signed up for. So yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, I agree. I think, a huge part of a huge part of our generation is this very interesting thing that I like to talk about at times is like we grew up with and without technology, which has added a
Mhm.
whole layer of mental health issues, a whole layer of
Yeah.
it's like playing The Sims sometimes, where it's just like it's a part of reality, but it's like separate from reality, especially social media in general. But I do think you're absolutely right. I think kids who are coming to this planet at this time, my children as well, are coming with a different set of a not a different set, but a more well-rounded awareness of the sacredness of this experience and
100%.
just a deeper a connection with the like ancient knowledge and wisdom of
Mhm.
humanity and of Earth and of the universe. And it's very interesting to see how that has already played out. I mean, children these days are so gifted, a lot of gifted children coming in. You know, Everest is very gifted communication and memory wise. She's been
Mhm.
communicating, you know, a couple years older than what she is since she was about a year old. I think she was a
Mhm.
year and a couple, no, she was a year old actually when she knew probably about 50 words at
Of
a
course.
at a year old. And I was like,
I
huh?
mean,
Like, what?
yeah, I mean, it's beautiful. And there's
Yeah.
going to be all of these kids, all these people that are having kids right now.
Yep.
They're going to be coming in really gifted.
Yeah.
It's a part of Earth's ascension process, and our Earth is getting ready right now to hold these gifted children.
Yes.
And they are going to be a part of this mass awakening. So it'll be beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah.
And children, I read this or heard this from somebody, but somebody said children are your fastest way to enlightenment. And I think
Yep.
it's absolutely true because it rocket ships you into shadow work. It rocket ships you into reparenting yourself. If you're if you give a shit, right? Like there are some parents who will isolate and escape from their children and you know they'll drink or pill or whatever like to deal with being a parent, or they will do the bare minimum and just let their kid watch TV all day and there's no interaction. They just send them to school and hope for the best. Like, and it's not to say that these certain things don't have a place in life. I let my kids watch a very small amount of TV, but they, you know, still get to live their life, right? They came here to be on a physical plane to experience the physical pleasures
Yeah.
and all of that silliness. But then there's also the side of it that's like, okay, but we all have this greater purpose here. So how do we nourish and nurture our children? And in doing that, it forces you to do that to yourself. You have to have your shit as straight as possible before you try to go and guide another person, much less a child
Mhm.
who is
Mhm.
completely malleable, right? Um, I wonder too, like for you as a kid, what was your experience growing up? Like, how did you view your parents and your family, and how did that affect you and your awareness of yourself and your gifts?
I'll start. I want to start with this is all about perspective. So I will start with some so-called negative things, but I do want to end off with some positive things
Sure.
because there are a lot of people that grasp onto their childhood and they make it kind of their whole life. They're like, you know what, this thing happened to me and it's terrible. And that can bring in the hatred. And I do want to, maybe I'll start off with there's a lot of forgiveness that needs to be taken place and love that needs to be taken place after you've had such a, rough childhood. There needs to be a different perspective later on when you go through your spiritual awakening. You will go through this, and first you'll have to heal um, sort of what you've gone through, and then you will have to forgive. And so I did have a very rough childhood. I felt very neglected growing up. I had a rough relationship with my mother and father, and it did affect me and my twin brother greatly. Um, it it was very difficult, and let's just say, yeah, I was very neglected, and I would like to say verbally abused by one of my parents, and then I didn't have another parent around because they weren't able to show up. And so this caused a lot of sadness growing up. I would say that I think that we're sort of comfortable about speaking about this now that we've healed it, but probably by ages like 16, 15, 17, there were ages when I was really young that I was even sort of going through that suicidal, I don't want to live here moments and thoughts. And it is to feel so unloved by the people around you can really distort your reality growing up, and not having the tools to know how to be happy or kind of what to do or uh, pretty much anything growing up is very difficult. And so that is something that I had to process later in life and fully heal. And I remember a time looking at my shaman out on a boat, and I was like, how can I ever forgive my parents? And this went on for, you know, probably like 2 years where I was with this shaman, kind of really saying, like, I can't forgive them. I
Mm,
do not know how. And he would look at me with a smile and say, you are going to love those parents one day, and you are going to be so grateful for everything you went through one day, and all of these things. And I was just like, no, like, how? Like, what do you
I was
mean?
gonna say that probably
How?
sounded so crazy to
It
you.
was
Like,
crazy, like absolutely insane. Like, how can you love your so-called abuser?
yeah,
And it's just it sounds insane. But you realize that you come to a time, I mean, it's funny because now I laugh about it because I have been able to forgive now, and I have been able to look at it with a different perspective, and that's really what it's all about, is looking at it through a different lens.
yeah,
If I did not have those experiences and I didn't feel so unloved growing up, I wouldn't be able to have the wisdom that I have today. And so I can look at it through a lens of like, I am so grateful. And this is if you're sort of still going through your spiritual awakening, you're probably like, what the heck, Jaelyn? Like, you're grateful. But I promise you, you will get to that point where you look back at the things that hurt you so deeply, and you will be grateful for them, because you will realize that, yeah, you're not the person you are today without that pain and that hurt.
yeah,
And you will not be so strong. And it's with that resiliency. Like, you will not be able to be so strong without those lessons. And also, I realized I am so, like, my heart is so large and so of love. I have been able to develop a type of empathy for people that is just, I honor that. I honor that piece of myself, to be able to understand people so deeply and to be able to hold space for those that have been through so much and be able to like help them through it.
yeah,
And so, yeah. If
yeah. No, totally. I think you hit it really on the head with it, is it's like forgiveness and gratitude are massive, massive, massive components to the healing process. And the
Mhm.
idea of having to forgive people who have hurt you in any way, shape, or form is really hard to manage at the beginning of your healing journey and
Mhm.
process. And of course, this journey is your whole life. There, these things, our traumas and our feelings and what we've experienced and how it affects us comes in waves. And there's times when those waves are fucking ginormous tsunami waves. And there's times when they're just little tiny itty bitties crashing on your shore. And it's hard to feel like in the beginning of coming to awareness of all of this that you're going to be able to move through it because it is so big at times.
Mhm.
But the gratitude for these initiations, I think also, again, another thing that comes towards the end. And gratitude often leads to people finding more spirituality within themselves and connecting with their spirit. Gratitude is like a slingshot emotion to that frequency, in my opinion.
Mhm.
And
Yes, yes,
yeah,
gratitude.
yeah. And you're right. I mean, so, some of the things that you've mentioned to me, growing up feeling neglected and just kind of, it sounds like you felt a little bit like emotionally neglected, and maybe like your mom not being able to step up in the picture as much as she, could have, or that you wanted her to, like that feeling of disconnect already from your like base familial, like foundation. How do you feel like that affected you into relationships, like friendships and romantic partners?
Okay, so this is a really important topic to talk about for sure, because this is something that happens to everybody in life. And so I believe in reincarnation, and I believe that you may believe in that too, but whatever you believe in is fine. But I think that there are often, okay, so I'll start with this. I think so. Before we come here, I believe that you sort of write out your life, and you sort of sign these contracts to kind of get you where you need to be. And you sign up to have these tests and tribulations
Lesson.
occur in
Yeah.
your life.
Yep.
So these tests will come again and again and again. These lessons will occur again and again and again to get you where you need to be. And so if I were to feel in my life that love was hard and very difficult, and I sort of had to, in my childhood, I felt deeply like I had to, you know, having a pause moment.
You're good.
I believe that love was very difficult. It was, and that, you had to struggle through love. And this
Mm-hmm.
is kind of tricky because there are certain relationships where, hard things happen, but
Mm-hmm.
it's the way that you bounce back
Yeah.
that you can tell if that's a good thing or not.
Yeah.
And so I would say that for me, I dealt with, feeling unloved or that sort of being neglected was okay. And that
Like it
that
was
love
normal.
normal.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so that did reflect in my first relationship. And I did have a relationship since I was 16. It was on and off until I was 22 or 23.
Oh,
And
wow.
so it was on and off. So I relived that lesson again and again and again. And in this relationship, it was kind of me pulling, trying to grasp to be loved correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did end up realizing that that is something that I gained from my childhood is sort of, begging to be loved correctly.
Yeah.
And
It
so,
was like a skill you developed to manage what was
mhm,
happening to you as a child. Absolutely.
yeah, exactly. And so that's what I'll say about relationships. And with friends, it's the same thing. If you're sort of beat up, emotionally at home, you can sort of take a lot outside of that as
Yeah.
well with
Yeah.
friendships. For me, it's funny. I was sort of a different type of soul growing up. So I never really took too much shit per se. Like I think that I was very much like on my 2 feet and I really would stand up for myself, which, I think there's certain aspects of yourself that are on a soul level. Um, your personality traits, every single person is unique. And
Right.
so that sort of comes from a soul aspect, not just from what you've gained in this life.
Yes,
And so
it's
I
innate.
yeah, I was able to sort of stand on my 2 feet, but, falling in love deeply and feeling like you have to beg for it is one of the lessons I had to learn.
Yeah.
And I know that that came from my parents.
Yeah.
And so yeah, you'll realize I think it is important. I think everybody's lessons are different. So it is important when you're going through your spiritual awakening to really sort of analyze what lessons have come into my life again and again and what haven't I been able to master yet. And
Mm-hmm.
so that takes a lot of deep self reflection and realization that is very important in mastering yourself
Mm-hmm.
and mastering the ability to not have to relive a lesson and to move forward on your journey.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So much goodness in there. I love what you said about, how lessons are sort of these, you have lessons of the same theme with various in they come in various forms. They might come through a friendship, they might come through a quick interaction at the grocery store, they might come through parental experiences. But I think that they are upgrades to more wisdom, right? They are the initiating um,
Absolutely.
factors in our life. And I think this is a beautiful like science side of this is when you experience something new, there are new genes that turn on in your DNA. So
Yeah.
innately, the blueprint, the biological, physiological, even blueprint in your body is going to respond to your environment according to your blueprint, right? And that
Mhm.
includes what has happened to you, but it also is who you are. It is your essence. It is your spirit. It is the contract that you came here with, right? And
Yeah.
this is a wild ride. This is a ghetto ass planet at times, right?
Yeah, no.
But but
Right?
but
Yes.
this reflection that you're speaking of, that's also shadow work. I think a lot of people get stuck on, a lot of religious people get really afraid of the idea of shadow work because I think they think we're talking about like demons and entities and all this stuff. It's like, no, girl, we're talking about you and
Mhm.
the shit you don't want to look at inside yourself. Like
Yes,
it's not
yes,
that scary, but it
yes.
can be, right? And I just did a 6 month shadow work program through an indigenous perspective of learning about the wheel of life. And
Beautiful.
it was, yeah, I'll send you the person that I had done it with in the container of like 12 other people.
I would love that.
It was incredible. You would love his message. Is very like fucking to the point and just like, here's how it is, ladies.
Love
Here's how
that.
it is, boys and girls. Um,
Mhm.
but the begging for love and to be seen thing really, I really, really resonate with that because I also felt in emotional neglect in a different way. My mom was dealing with so much of her own emotional
Mhm.
dysfunction and dysregulation
Mhm.
that when it came to me, who was a child who was extremely dysregulated in a lot of different capacities and also super philosophical and existential at a young age, it made it difficult for her to show up for me in the ways that I needed because it was probably beyond the normal scope of what mothers and fathers have to offer their children. You know, I had a lot of mental health really young. Um, so I've learned to have compassion for my parents and to forgive them for not knowing any better, right? But
Beautiful.
that need to be seen, it's like I had to make myself be in like crisis mode almost for them to finally like get that I needed help or like get that I was struggling or whatever it was, or like I just needed to kick and scream and yell for them to like fucking get it, you know?
Mhm.
And in that position, you unknowingly go towards partners and friendships where there's a little bit of that like necessity for you to beg for, or you know, even with my relationship now in our past, I've had to be like laying it out of like, this is how I want to be loved. Please love me like this, you know,
Mhm.
but not saying it like in it from a grounded place, saying it from an angry place, saying it from a frustrated place or a sick place or a sad place, you know. And when you can find that space in yourself of groundedness, um,
Mhm.
where you recognize, oh shit, I'm having another one of those lessons. One, that's probably because you've done some shadow work.
Mhm.
And two, you your body and your mind and your soul are probably at that point where they've all integrated to be able to look at life that way, right? And to see that truth of like, here I am, I'm at this other lesson again. Okay, am I going to choose to do what was taught to me as a child, or am I going to choose what's right for me and what's authentic and what's my real aligned path? What is my innate blueprint? Who is the essence behind this action, right? Like not just a
Mhm.
body and a brain doing shit and responding to the environment, an actual soul deciding and choosing to take different paths that have different purposes within the multitude of lessons we're supposed to learn in this life. But I really, really agree with you when it comes to the fact that it's these lessons are gifts. They hurt, they're uncomfortable, but without them, without the experiences we had as children, the certain aspects of our innate blueprint of our spirit wouldn't come out to their full potential unless things had happened. Um, you know, I have been through abusive experiences, and it's like I look at that and I'm like, no, I wouldn't like in this life as a human being. Of course, I wouldn't choose that, right? But when you're in the next world, whatever you want to call it, when you're
Yeah.
not a physical form, you see that grand picture. You see that upgrade. You see that as a gift, as a
Yeah, you're actually excited to go through that
you're actually
on the
excited
other
to go through that, right? It's
side.
so weird. Like so so I think too that kind of brings me to I would love to know more about some of the, you know, more paranormal or psychic experiences that you've had
Ooh.
that have brought you deeper intuition about, you know, maybe your gifts and how you can show up in this world authentically and with, you know, just more alignment between mind, body, spirit, and heart.
Yeah, wow. Okay. So I have had a lot of different paranormal experiences. Um, which route would you like to go down? Because with it, so are we going starseed route? Are we going like
Yeah, no,
what
I got
what
you. I
what route?
I think anything that feels relevant to you, I guess for me, I wonder if was there a particular experience, could be paranormal or not, I guess, or psychic or not. Was there a particular experience that helped you realize that where you were wasn't the authentic you, like in your depression, in your, escapism, in your flip side isolation, not integration isolation, but escapism isolation, depression isolation? Was there like an experience you had that kind of woke you up and like helped you start this journey of reflection for yourself? Like one particular or a couple of different experiences that really just kind of kickstarted that journey for you?
Yeah, so there's definitely many different routes we can go down with this one. I did have a lot of paranormal experiences growing up, and there are many people who believe in ghosts, entities, and things like this, and have their own experiences as well.
Right.
I guess I'll start with the things that come into your life and the entities or paranormal will only come into your life based off of your frequency.
Right.
And so as a child, I came into this, reality as a gifted soul, and in the future, my future self will, I believe, do big things and will help humanity in whatever way I chose before this life. And so I do believe that certain gifted souls, and I'm sure a lot of people can resonate with that, they have these abilities when they're a child to see and feel entities of or ghosts. I would like I probably won't use the word entity. I don't love that word.
Right.
I'll just use
Right.
ghosts. There's a lot of different, or there could be aliens. There's a lot of different things that will come and visit you and put that fear into you, especially if you're a gifted soul. So if you have dealt with those things, you're definitely gifted, and they're coming after you because they don't want you to be a part of the awakening process, and they want you to stay in fear. And so, yeah, I did have a lot of different experiences where I would have ghosts come to me all the time. They would mess with me. I'd hear them talking to me. Um, most of the time, it would be in different languages, which was really strange. They would, mess with my stuff in front of me, taunt me while I was sleeping. And it was easier for me to be in a fear state because I was already dealing with a lot of childhood trauma. And so when I'm at this frequency as a young girl, as you know, living life very scared, and um, already feeling depressed, those things will visit you a lot more, because they know that they can feed off of your fear even more and make you more scared. And so that did occur a lot in my childhood. My father at the time did not believe me when I was going through these things, and neither did my mother. So it was very difficult for me to have those experiences and just, I'm lying. I'm, making it up, this, that,
Another,
and
it is another form of neglect in a way as well, and
that
isolating
was a
even more.
big form of neglect in my eyes because it was something that I dealt with for years. Were these different things happening to me. I do believe that I was, abducted a few times as a child too, and that's very hard to sort of come out and talk about, because if you haven't experienced it yourself, you can be looked at as crazy and all of these other things. And so I would be in dream state and see certain alien beings per se, and then I would experience times where I would wake up in a different part of my house and be very scared. And so those things happened as a child. But as I got older, there were times in about 2020 is when I hit another really dark night of the soul that I was experiencing these things again, where I was having different beings come to me. And it was based on my frequency level. And so want people to understand that these things don't have any power over you. And when you believe that they have power over you, they have power over you. And so
Right?
your belief system is everything.
Because
And
fear
so,
itself is a frequency as well, right?
yes. And so your
Tapping it.
fear of those things will actually call it in more. And so I was very fearful. in different moments in my life. And if I didn't have that fear in those experiences, I guess we'll come back to me realizing that I am so much more powerful
Hmm.
than those things, but then
Hmm.
I'm so much more powerful than my thoughts as well,
Hmm.
because those things can also get in your head. There's a lot of ghosts that I call them like what do I call them? There, there's I don't necessarily believe in heaven or hell, but I think that there's some ghosts that don't choose to fully go into the other side and they'll hang down here and so they'll sort of mess with you. I have I have that happen here and there, but some of them they're not even trying to scare me. Like they just I can see them or they'll just be like, "Oh, she can see me." And then they'll like, pop up. But yeah, basically it teaches you that you need to not be fearful or you'll call it in more and to not be fearful of your own thoughts. um I want to get to when my frequency changed, I was able to connect with beings that were of the highest frequency. And so with that came a lot of knowledge and my DNA was like transformed in a way
Mm.
that I started getting these codes sort of transformed into my DNA that were awakening gifts within me. And
Mm.
so that was also a beautiful thing as well. So I've connected with, or at my lower frequency, I was, letting these other beings come into my space and inflict fear upon me. But then when I grew out of that frequency, I was able to connect with beings that were, you know, of a higher frequency that were giving me gifts. I would say
Yeah.
so. I think I went in circles a few times there,
No,
but
you're good.
yeah,
I'm curious of two things. So obviously the medicine and these experiences, the wisdom that came out of it for you was just that you have a right to your body, your mind, your spirit, and your heart. And regardless of
yes,
these things visiting you, it is your choice to allow them in.
yep.
Right. And
Hmm.
so I'm curious of two things. What kind of beings were you visited by, and like describe what they looked like and what their energy was? I would love to hear that. And then also, what are some boundaries that you've created for yourself so that you're not constantly being in contact, or just like energetic, mental, emotional boundaries for yourself to keep yourself sane and not, delve into the realm of psychosis, or, just remaining grounded here, even though you are having such large, ethereal, it sounds like, experiences. But first,
Yes.
I'd love to know what kind of beings you are being
Okay.
visited
So
by and experiencing.
is your platform ready for this?
I'm ready for this, so they got to be ready for this.
Okay, so I'll start with I think that going through the paranormal, it kind of got me ready for these other things that were going to come in my life, kind of being in touch with the other side.
Yeah.
And so you can look at that as a positive. Everything in the end is a positive, and I'd like to just state that. It's all about perspective. But when I was a young girl, I believed in aliens, and this was a time when I call them ETs, but
Yeah.
aliens, ETs, whatever you want to call them, extraterrestrial. Um, this was a time when nobody really talked about these things. Nobody believed in them. This is only like what 10 years ago. Nobody talked about these things,
Yeah.
and so going into middle school, I remember constantly researching aliens, anything that I could get. It was just this intuition telling me like need to know more about this, and like I feel like these things are real,
Hmm.
and I would just kept deep diving into it because it just felt so. It felt more like home than what this feels like, and so eventually, I was having different experiences with it's hard to talk about these things because people don't understand it. And
No,
you know
fully,
what, I'm still,
fully.
everybody, authenticity is a thing, but even in your spiritual awakening, there are a lot of people that don't understand these things still.
Right. Because
And
there's
so
not a lot of experiences of it, right? Like a lot of people
there's
experience anxiety, a lot of people experience, so they have like
yeah,
tangible evidence. This is
yes,
really hard to, I'm sure, for you to share, but like this is a safe space. You can share as
yes.
little as you want. I am curious because I believe in all of
Yeah, I
these.
think
So,
there are a lot of people now that believe in aliens,
sure.
ETs, and as I said, the babies coming in right now are especially
Oh yeah.
gifted children that are a part of this awakening process, and they have a lot of lives that aren't just on Earth, and so they're going to have those codes and wisdom within them that are very advanced.
Yes.
And so I believe that a lot of my advanced wisdom is sort of from these past lives that I've lived
Mm.
as different beings. I know that I've lived some human lives, but I also believe that I have lived a lot of different lives elsewhere. And so I did have, I have had a lot of different experiences with different ETs. And in my first ayahuasca ceremony, I went there to my first ayahuasca ceremony. I was talking to the shaman, and he's had all these experiences with ETs, and we've even gone out together to call down the ETs. And we have a special sort of protocol that we do to call them down, which has been really cool. But he told me that in this ceremony that I could just ask to connect with them, and I ended up actually doing that, which was
Wow.
pretty insane. And so it was very telepathic and it was very intense. My ego was absolutely like shattered. It felt very uncomfortable because their frequency is way higher than ours.
Oh
And
yeah.
so our ego sort of shatters and you almost feel fear, but it's just our mind that's feeling that fear. It's not real. They are very loving, and they're just a part. Some of us, they're just a part of. They monitor us and see what we're doing and help in our ascension process. But yeah, I did have an experience with a few different beings. One being the Lyrans, and then another being the Blue Avians, and another being the Reptilians. And so there is a huge misconception about these reptilian beings. If you are,
Yes, I've heard the many misconceptions.
yes,
The fear-mongering misconceptions, that is.
yes, yeah, definitely. And so these beings actually came to me a lot before I did my ayahuasca ceremony. I also want to touch on this little funny thing. Before I did my ceremony, the night before I had my ceremony, I did not know that I was going to sort of manifest or ask to see my other life or my other soul family somewhere else. So the dream that I had before going into the ceremony, I was very vivid. And in this dream, I look up and this portal opens and I see these ETs waving down at me. And so I
Oh,
woke up the next day saying, "Oh, that was weird." But then
total
later that night,
foreshadowing.
yeah, and later that night, I went into that ceremony, was able to connect with these beings. It's very difficult to explain the experience, especially for ayahuasca.
Yeah.
It is so not human and so hard to explain that it's difficult. But I was infatuated with the Lyrans after this ayahuasca experience, and later on, I would sort of connect with a few different people that um, let's see, I connected with somebody named Debbie Soloris that does Akashic record readings, and a few other people that have had these experiences. And they were able to tell me that these beings are here to help and assist me in helping others and this, that, and the other. So that's great. I have had a lot of experiences where have seen them physically. I've seen crafts physically. I did move to Texas for a year, and I was able to see these crafts pretty much every week. I would be
Wow.
inside my home and just get a message, "Hey, we're outside," and I'd be able to see crafts. And I've even gone to the point where I've had one sort of hover in front of my car in the middle of nowhere. We were in a canyon, and it ended up starting to follow me home. And
Oh,
so we saw this craft will start to follow us home. But I would go outside a lot in Texas and feel as if my family was somewhere else.
Mm,
And this is a huge thing for like the star seed wisdom. And um, I think there's a lot of us that come in here with this very uncomfortable knowledge because there's a lot of people that don't understand this stuff. And so we can feel as, an outcast. And a lot of people can think we're crazy, but I got my head screwed on right. And I also am a very happy individual now. And,
you're also living
and
here on earth, right? Like you've had these
yes,
experiences, but you're also grounded. And that's I think a lot of people nowadays, because partially in part because of social media has just advertised these sort of ceremonies and has publicized them so much. And these were sacred, traditional, indigenous practices that did allow you to connect to spirit and your own spirit and your spiritual blueprint and
yeah.
the DNA and the biological connections to the other areas and realms of the universe and other variants of life, right? And I think for
Mhm.
you, this is your path, but people will always, discredit what they don't understand, or they will
Yeah,
devalue
definitely.
it. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, but if I'm here on earth living my life, being a better person because of this knowledge that I've gained,
Yeah.
how can you discredit that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it's always so funny too. It's like, why would I want to like come in here and just like say something crazy? Like,
Yeah, right. Like
why
I don't want to make myself
who
look
would
like
choose
that.
who would choose to just like make something like that up? Like, I always like think about that. I'm like, you know what? Do you think I want to just like, because I don't really talk to that many people. A lot of the time, I really just like, hang out with myself or do my own thing or connect with people that have had the same experiences because like I just like, I mean, I told you as a kid, like I sounded crazy. Like it just I've had these experiences and I it's not fun to have people, so discredit your own experiences. And so yeah, it's like why would I make that stuff up? But it did what so this does coincide with the shadow work. If I did not have the dark night of the soul and do that shadow work, I wouldn't have been able to connect with these higher frequencies. Therefore, these higher frequencies and advanced beings sort of helped my soul evolve even more because I was at that level. I started to have these abilities where I would be able to, I'm like, there's so many different words for like psychic or clairaudient, they're like what I don't know. There's so many different words,
Yeah,
but
clairvoyant.
clairvoyant, it's not clairaudient, it's clairvoyant, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, clairvoyant. There's so many different words. See, I'm like so bad at like I swear human language, but like I just like I
because
have
because you experience much like myself. You experience it in essence and not
yes,
image. An image
yes.
we can like say this is a computer in front of me and I'm with Jaelyn
Mhm.
and but like the essence that you and I are exchanging is not, it's felt. It's not something we see. So it's hard to
Yes.
describe.
Yes, as so if you just to tell everybody, do the inner work and really like feel into your thing. I think that was a huge thing we wanted to go into today is really do the
Yes.
inner work because once you
Yes.
do, your life becomes beautiful and there are some people that will be watching this and they'll resonate with like the ETs or sort of resonate with the all of a sudden all these gifts are turning on where I feel like
Yeah.
I literally know what's going to happen or I'm just like so intuitive all of a sudden that like all these gifts are turning on. It's because you've done the inner work.
Hmm.
And so yeah, my intuition is on fire now. I
I
like
bet.
I am able to, see things on the other side. I see orbs often. I've, ghosts. I can hear, spirit, higher mind telling me I am guided. So I'm able to hear the whispers from the other side now so clearly,
Wow.
where I know how to move in life
Yeah.
very easily. And so I know how to navigate life a lot easier now that I have this connection to my higher mind.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So what are some of the boundaries you've created in your life around your spiritual gifts, the things that contact you, and how have you learned to navigate that? Because that's a whole process in and of itself, right? I mean, if you're constantly just like shoving out a frequency of fear or shoving out a frequency of like, come be with me, you're going to get dysregulated and disconnected from this reality that we chose to be in, right? So, how have you found your way to balance being a spiritual human being living in a physical world?
This is such a great question. I'm so glad that you brought this up because this is a massive part of a spiritual awakening as well, is this people pleasing epidemic that, people go through. And especially that's another thing that ties into childhood. If you feel like you need to please a parent and be this, perfect little child when even though you're going through it, man, that's a big one. There are, for me, even in the beginning of my spiritual awakening, or even kind of when I got through a massive part of the shadow work, I believed that, okay, well, you know what? I'm this spirit, light and love. I went through the whole light and love, I have to be, really sweet and show humanity that I'm a real sweetheart and that everything is just rainbows. And I went into it and I came back from Texas when I was in isolation in Texas. I lived there for a year, very much in isolation. Came back, came back to all of my friends, and I realized, like, you know what? I changed a lot then, and I wanted to be this very sweet individual because I realized I was like, I went through a spiritual awakening, be very sweet, and I was a different person coming back, and I got stomped on, completely stomped on. And so I would have certain people. This is another thing. If you're of the light, you're going to have a lot of people that hate you for no reason. Like they are going to
Hate you for no reason, and also a bunch of moths that literally attract to you like you are the light.
Yes,
And then you're like
yes.
solving everybody and everything's problem and you're like, whoa, wait, how did I get here?
So true. Like you will attract people that want to tear the light out of your soul. And so that is why the people pleasing thing needs to absolutely be shredded in half. If you are in a point in your life where you are pleasing others too much, where it takes away from your own self sanity, if you ever go out somewhere and do something for someone else in your body, your intuition, you're denying your intuition and your self respect for other people, you are no. I'm so big on this. Do
Yeah.
not be a people pleaser. Always listen to your own guidance.
Yeah.
If your guidance tells you do not go do this, don't do it. If your guidance tells you do not be friends with these individuals, cut it off. It might be hard. The universe has something better for you.
Yeah.
If you are going out somewhere and you know, people are disrespecting you and you're like, well, these are my only friends. Like, I need friends. Like, no, babe, something else is going to come in and it's going to be a lot better. And it's going to be something that resonates with you because you
Yeah.
cannot be around frequencies that are lower than you. It will cause chaos and you cannot please everybody because you will drown. You will
Yep.
literally drown and you
Yep.
will be hurting yourself again and again. And that is another lesson loop. If
Yep.
if that is a lesson that a lot of star seeds go through, is that is the people pleasing lesson,
Yeah.
and it's just
Yeah.
absolutely
Which,
not.
which,
You come first. Do
yes,
what your heart tells you to do.
yes, which also ties into almost like your childhood exacerbated that like innate part of your lessons, an innate part of your journey here, which is to people please to have attention from your parents, or to people please to maintain
Yep.
these friendships, or to people please to fit in and not stand out in certain ways that you think might not be good, or that you're uncomfortable with, or that you're trying to hide about yourself. So it
Yes.
sounds like two of the biggest boundaries that you have in life is not people pleasing and
Yes.
listening to the guidance for what is right for you, and
Mhm.
furthering that by saying be willing to let go of what is holding you back from what is really
Yep.
meant for you. And even if you
Mhm.
don't know, and this is, I'll add this to that aspect of it, of being willing to let go for newness, you might not know what it looks like on the other side. You still need to let go. You are not going to have all the steps laid out for you before you make that decision to let go. Letting
Mhm.
go is the first step to then
Mhm.
seeing the rest of them, right? And I've had to experience that many times in my life of like, I have to let go right now to make space for newness.
Yes.
If my mind is
Yes.
full and clouded with shit and thoughts and all the things, I'm not going to have any space for newness to come in. Meditation's not going to work. Plant ceremonies aren't going to work.
Mhm. Mhm.
Isolation's not going to work because there's nothing being let out, right?
Yeah.
And so part of that like feeling through process that we talked about in the beginning is letting things out of your body energetically, mentally, physically, spiritually, etc. Like
Mhm.
there has to be this experience of letting go at various times in your journey. And without that, you will not be able to align with the new vibrations of your body and frequencies of your atoms. It's not going you can't change unless you change. It's like it's a really hard fact to grapple with when you're in the moment, but when you step out of that moment and you're at that like plateau part of your journey where you're just looking down at what you've accomplished and you're kind of in a safe space,
Mhm.
and a more free, liberated space, you can look down and be like, holy shit, I just did that. And simultaneously look up at the next mountain you're about to climb and be ready and excited for that and grateful for it. But
Yeah.
you have to let go. You have to come to the other side.
Yeah. Or watch the lesson repeat.
That lesson repeat and
I mean,
spirit will drag your ass around.
it will drag you.
Drag you.
Don't get dragged.
Yeah.
Listen and trust the universe. Like, it's
Yeah.
so important. Like, once you get that connection with your higher mind and it tells you to do something,
Yeah.
do it. It is, we are just so attached to fear and
Yeah.
limiting ourselves. It is ridiculous. We limit ourselves so deeply because we're scared. We're scared to do that next step. But when you do that next step and you listen to your inner guidance, as you said, the doors will open up
Yeah.
and they will, and the love and the friends and everything that you've ever dreamed of will come through. And
Yeah.
so it is so important. It's so scary. It's so scary to let go and to let go of your old patterns of people pleasing and, you know, all of these patterns of, the self-hatred, the
Yeah.
victim, all of these things that we've talked about. It is literally so hard for us as humans to let go of our old versions of ourselves.
Yes.
But when you step into that new version of yourself and trust the universe so full-heartedly, your life will turn into butterflies. Like, it, you will bloom and you will start to just see everything align in just the most beautiful ways. Because I promise you, like, this is, we're younger and we've learned these lessons quicker because we have just that knowledge I just talked about, like
Exactly.
learning that lesson and moving on and letting go of whatever your higher mind tells you to do.
Yeah.
Because there are people that are 80 years old right now that are, I mean, 75, they are still repeating these patterns,
So deep and
and
so
they're
deep.
gonna go
Yeah.
into the next life and
Yeah.
have to relive that. Or, their sons or their daughters are gonna have to take that on for them. So it is so important
Yeah.
that we take these lessons and we learn them and we move forward, because not only are we healing ourselves, we are healing our lineage and we are
Yes.
healing the ones that are to come. Our babies aren't going to have to deal with these lessons. And yeah, so that's a big one, is listen, really grasp this higher mind connection. And
Yeah.
this is a big one on spiritual. When you sort of really, you get through the dark night of the soul, you are connecting to yourself. Really grasp that higher mind connection and listen to your intuition and gut feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. And sadly, that intuition, that gut feeling has been ostracized for a lot of us through our trauma, right? It's been shoved down into us like, no, I'm your parent and I'm telling you what you need to do. Or, oh, I'm your partner. You need to do what I say because that's why I
Yeah.
love you or whatever. And it shoves that little voice down. And then it becomes this like distorted voice of other people's voice. It becomes the
Oh
should
yeah.
be like this and I shouldn't be like that, right? And then it's all these self-limiting beliefs that you start to identify with because for whatever reason it makes you think you're safe, like, well, if I live within these lines, if I live
Mhm.
within these bumpers that everybody else has told me are important, then I'll be fine. But you haven't identified or defined what those bumpers are for you, for your authentic
Yeah.
path, right? Because you haven't done that inner work. You're just living your life based on what's happened around you, what you've experienced, and you can't live a full life and you can't find your authentic path identifying with your trauma and identifying with your pain and identifying with people pleasing and identifying with anything that fucking limits you from really knowing you. And knowing you has nothing to do with anybody else. Like
Mm-hmm.
it has nothing to do with anybody else. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's why like when you start talking about your experiences with like psychic experiences or ETs, it's like that's your experience. And I'm one of
Mm-hmm.
those people that I look at that and I think, holy shit, how fucking insane is it that this person has had this experience and is now willing to share it, but also simultaneously like so sad that you feel that resistance to share because of the resistance of others to accept, right? And it's that resistance in them is a resistance that they have towards their own life and their own self, that disbelief of that things could be different or change or unique or whatever. Like they're like, this is how my life is and this is how it's always been. And I don't know why I need to change it. It works for me, right? It works for me. It's like, yeah, you wake up and you're fine, but are you truly happy? Are you finding fulfillment? Are you
Mm-hmm.
resilient when shit goes and hits the fan? Are you able to
Mm-hmm.
move through your issues, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's another. It sounds like that's another big part of your resiliency and your story is like not identifying with any one version of yourself and deciding who you are moment to moment as you experience things. And that's very much the way that I am. I never want to put myself in a box of one thing because that's just not realistic. I mean, we're so
Yeah.
expansive. I mean, there's so many things to us. We're made of literal stars and like
Yeah.
dust. I'm like, how the fuck do we look at ourselves and go, "Oh, you look weird today?" And it's like, yeah, you do look weird. You're a little
Yeah.
like
Awesome.
back with the soul, dude. That is weird. You know what I mean? So that's a
I
really
think
good point
that's
that you brought up.
awesome.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, like authenticity. Yeah, I think we've said that word a few times. I feel like that's really important to kind of talk about as well as authenticity, I believe, is the highest frequency, even beyond love. And I think we've talked
absolutely.
about that on our phone call.
Yes.
But and so it is, I see this as a reoccurring thing for Starseeds is it's our mission to share. And even so it's a hard one, but it's something that we're gonna get past because we've already built up this resiliency or able to get past all of these hard things in our life. So it's like, okay, now you have to share your gifts because we're awakening the planet. And so be authentic. And so, but then your authenticity is the highest frequency. And so when you're actually talking about, all of these things in your truth, you're actually raising your vibration and therefore calling in a higher vibration towards you as well. And so, you
Yes,
know,
exactly.
this podcast will go to all the right people, and
Exactly.
even everybody that's watching this, take what resonates and don't what doesn't. We don't care because authenticity is your superpower. It's our superpower. And it is a beautiful thing. And this is my first podcast and I think this is awesome. Like I I think that it's beautiful that you've been through so much and you're doing this and you're sharing your gift because I feel like that is deeply what our mission is to do, is to be authentic. Wait.
Authentic. I got you.
Okay, human words. Yeah,
You're like, I don't
authentic.
want to
Oh
talk
my
like this.
gosh, like my brain. But as I'm explaining this word, but yeah, do that, and um, life will take you in great places. It'll take you exactly where you need to be, and with the right people that will love and support you for your authentic self. Authentic.
For your authentic self,
Guys,
for your authenticity.
authentic self.
Oh my God, so funny.
This
I
is some giggles from the podcast.
I think I
My tongue gets tied so bad sometimes, but it's
that's so
so
funny.
true because like
I'm
people like
telling you,
us,
it's
like there's
essence
so
over
much
image.
going on up here.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot
Like,
coming
can I
in.
say an English word real quick, please?
I think too, like you have been an example of lots of different things happening. And I've had a lot of different things happen to me in my short amount of life. And I think same is gone on for you. And I'm curious if, you as you have come to be an adult and like have a brain that's fully, developed and all of that. Is is there one thing or a few things that like really stick out to you with your younger self that you like have hindsight with, or yeah, hindsight with now, of like, I wish I could have said this to my younger self when I was experiencing like the ET, connection, or like the psychic stuff? Is there like any, I don't know, any, not advice, but words of wisdom around who you are now versus who you were before all of this integration that you've done?
So I wouldn't change anything, but I would say that if so I would say that I would tell her that everything's going to be okay. So there is different methods that I've used to heal my inner child,
Hmm.
and one of those being a visualization method. And so I use this is a part of shadow work as well, but what I'll do is I'll go into meditation and I will close my eyes, and on a screen I will envision, each age. And what you can do is envision, say I all of a sudden 13-year-old me, and I see 13-year-old me up on this screen. Once I've, breathed, I've gone deep into myself. You can envision your 13-year-old self, and you'll also see that memories will come up. And so you'll see her, and you'll see memories come up, and you will see that those are things that you need to heal, but then you will also be able to connect with that version of yourself, because time is, there's no such thing as time. You can go back to that version of yourself,
Oh yeah.
or you can, you can go to any version of yourself practically. That's where it even goes into the ET stuff. Any version of yourself you can connect with, and gain those codes from different lives and also from your past version of yourself, little Jaelyn. And so I will go in and connect with that version of myself. And what I will do is I will expand my heart chakra, and I will expand the green light, and I'll expand it in myself. And so then I will expand that in the version of myself, 13-year-old Jaelyn. We're talking about her. And so I will expand that around her, and I will wrap her in that love. And so I will hold her and wrap her in that love, and I will communicate with her. And so this is a method that I've used going through each age. Um, I think this is a great shadow work method that everyone
Yes.
should use. And so I have sort of done that and communicated and been like, everything's going to be okay. I love you. And yeah.
Yeah. And also what I have done similar viewing. I forget what it's called. It's not remote viewing, but it's viewing. I've done it with EDMR, where you literally get into a meditative state and you witness a specific trauma that,
Mhm.
like on a movie screen, that you've experienced, and you just go through
Yeah.
releasing the emotional
Yeah.
experience of that, as well as like the thoughts you had that you couldn't express at that time, that you now have the capacity to do as an adult or whatever. And so I can very much relate to that, and attest to that visualization method being very powerful and potent for healing
Yeah.
specific points in your life. And that's really integrating timelines, is what you're talking about.
Yes. Yes.
That's been a huge piece of my journey the last few
Yeah.
years. Because I feel like a lot of the times when you start healing, it's like it's a big purging process at first, which is where I think plant medicine can be really helpful, because it purges you of like that human ego.
Hmm.
And it forces you into spirit in a way. It slingshots you into spirit. So a lot of times
Yeah.
people can like do it too much, and then they go into psychosis, or
Hmm.
they become like new age spirituality. It's all light and love. And you're like, no, babe, there's
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
equal
It's
shittiness too, right?
darkness too. Yeah.
Um, and that darkness is part of our depth. So like, yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's, your story is so interesting to me, because there's not a lot of people who have had the experience that you've had in life. Um, Obviously, only know what you've told me, but in the little bit that you have, I mean, such important wisdom, such potent medicine in you. And to see you being so open to yourself really is so hopeful to me, and so healing, because that's really what happens is we close ourselves down and we close other people out, or we close ourselves out from ourselves, or both. And then it becomes this really hard process of like, well, how do I even feel anymore? You get back to this place of like not even ground zero, but like you're in the negative, if you know what I mean. We have to like work your way back up just to like being able to say, I feel a certain way, feeling safe enough in your body to say what happened to me wasn't okay. There are so many kids nowadays who are people pleasers because in our generation, our parents worked 9 to 5 and we were at daycare at 2 months old and all this shit. We didn't
Mhm.
have the time to connect the way that a lot of
Yeah.
families, mine included, take the time to do now and prioritize. Um, but it's just interesting to me, how everybody experiences like neglect in different ways. And the way that you've experienced it might not be exactly how I have, but we still have this ability to relate. And I think that, going back to what you said a little bit earlier, sharing that awareness with one another is true empathy, right? We can sympathize with somebody on the side of the road being homeless and giving them money or whatever. But unless you've been in that position where you have felt a similar way, or you've literally been homeless, you can't really fully empathize because you don't know the gravity of that, or how that feels,
Yeah.
how that, what it's like to think and be in that reality. But when we can share and we can come together like this, it's an even more powerful ripple effect than just having it experienced it and knowing that you've experienced it. But really, you coming onto this podcast and wanting to share this, that is the most authentic thing that any human could do. Sharing their
Mhm.
story and being brave enough to, share the parts that you maybe haven't shared with a lot of people. I'm just really grateful that you were willing to do that. And I feel like there are so many nuggets of knowledge in this. Like once I go back and listen, I'm just gonna have like, oh, that's a good one. I'm gonna have to quote that. I'm gonna have to quote that. Um,
Yeah.
but to really tie it all together, because I think we talked a lot about fear and how fear
Mhm.
can stop you from being who you want to be. Fear can um, allow certain energetic beings to integrate or to interact with you in this world, and how fear can drive you to act certain ways that are not authentic. You said this wonderful quote, which is that there is always something wonderful after fear. And I would love for
Oh,
you to
yeah.
expand on that and like where you heard that and how it helps you build resiliency in your life now.
Yeah, well, I don't think I even really heard it anywhere. I think that I experienced it. It
Mm.
was, I mean, every step that I've taken that I didn't want to do, but my gut told me to do, there was something beautiful on the other side. It's like, even I told you today, I'm like, I'm a little bit nervous about this podcast, my first podcast, but this has been great. This has been so much fun. And I think that this is beautiful. We've both been authentic, and I appreciate you so much for being authentic as well. Um, there has been times where I, have done some very scary things. And even with the ceremonies, I had some very scary ceremonies, but I knew that it was doing good for me. And so I would still go back into it, and I would go back into the fire. For us, we've been through so much. And like when you've been to a point in your life where you feel so shitty and you've crawled yourself out of human hell, getting past fear gets a little bit easier and easier. It still is difficult. Don't get me wrong, we're still human. It's difficult, but every single time I've gotten past that fear and just said, "You know what? This is what, universe, higher mind, whatever you may say is telling me to do right now. Do it." Something beautiful has happened. A new experience in life has come to me. Um, Doors open, and those doors opening are what our soul strives to see. We come here to manipulate energy and create, and so we cannot create if we are stuck in fear and not doing things that you're meant to do by just staying stuck. You're stuck. You're not doing anything. And so get past that fear. And that's another thing that will heal your lineage is, there's a lot of, fear is a human thing. And so people in our lineage, they were fearful to do a lot of things that they were meant to do. And that's something that another thing that star seeds need to get past is there is fear, yes, our mind, but really it's just your ego. Your ego is in the way of something beautiful that's going to occur. And so just keep following your heart and it'll take you to things that you can't even imagine. I can't even tell you how many times I was scared to do something, so scared. And that something that you always think you know what's going to happen in the future, or like, oh, you try to plan it out, but then something even better will come. So it's just, don't listen to fear. It's just your ego talking. We are experiencing being human. Do whatever feels good, be authentic, and be absolutely fearless because most of this world is living in fear.
Yes.
And the people that are going to make it in this life and this shift around the world are going to be the people that do not listen to fear. There's a lot going on in the world right now that I hear people are feeding into, and that is going to keep us in that lower frequency. And so fearlessness and believing that this planet will reach a place of ascension is really where we need to keep our mind at, and that's living fearlessly.
Yeah, absolutely. Wherever your conscious mind is becomes, or I should say, wherever your conscious mind is how it will create your life and your reality.
Mhm.
And you're absolutely right. We are natural born alchemists. We manipulate energy because energy can neither be created nor destroyed. And
Mhm.
so we're just constantly manipulating the consciousness of energy and energy itself, matter, and all the things. And so, if we're in that state of fear, we don't have that same level of capacity for manipulation. So I think that's a beautiful way of putting it. And I love just how you've wrapped everything up in a pretty little bow and put it together for us. And I just want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to be here and to share everything that you have. I really feel a kindredness with you, and I'm glad that we could open ourselves up to each other. And yeah, I'm just really, really grateful. I'm overwhelmed with knowledge as well, and I'm just kind of letting it all absorb and sit in me. And I've got so many more questions I want to ask you, but I really just appreciate you taking the time today and talking to me about all this.
Of course. Thank you so much. We have to do this again. I
Absolutely.
love this. I
Absolutely.
would
We need to do a part two. I agree.
Yes, I would love to do this again with you. This was absolutely amazing, and I'm so grateful for you. And your wisdom is just so beautiful, and I can just see like just your aura. I love it. Like you are just such a magnificent soul, and so I'm really happy that we were guided to each other to do something beautiful like this. And I'm excited. I have a feeling we'll do something again soon. So at
Yes,
some point when the time is divine timing,
absolutely.
there's something special for us. I feel it. So thank you so much.